So hello everybody, this is the second part of looking into Windows on ARM, and if you watched my previous video about it, I have a Lenovo T14S now, which features this Snapdragon X Elite processor, which is an ARM processor, and it has similar advantages as the processors from Apple, so the M1234 line, which means you don't need a loud and noisy fan, and it's quite power efficient, and you can have a battery with long running times. So last time I looked at Bitwig, Cubase and Reaper if they can perform already on ARM, and they are already available in an ARM version. And meanwhile, during this week, Bitwig released the final 5.3, so we have now an official final ARM support by Bitwig, which is really running nicely. And the whole week I was installing tons of plugins to test for you if they also work fine on this new ARM platform. So the good news is they all work. The little bit drawback is that none of the companies I looked at provides an ARM version so far, but nevertheless the x64 version is also running nicely. Most of them install also fine. With some you have to do some tricks, so let's look at that first. So the companies that really play nicely is Arturia, Captain plugins, Cardinal, iZotope plugins, Melodyne, Native Instruments installers, Omnispheres for Sando, and the Microwave One Waldorf. All of these products install totally fine, which means the big installers, so the Arturia ones, the Native Instrument one, and the iZotope ones, they work totally fine. Only thing with Melodyne, I could only activate Melodyne via the standalone application. It did somehow not work via the plugin, but that's a simple thing to work around. Then I still use some plugins which don't need an installer at all, which means you simply copy the file over, like a little tuner plugin I use. Then the absolute awesome Kawaii K1 emulation from Niels Schneider is also running nicely. The very old Synth 1 plugin, but still lovely sounds in it. And all the plugins from the usual suspects who create these DSP emulations for some old synths also works fine. And the good Commodore X64 VST speak here. Then we have some plugins with issues, but are worked around easily if you have still a x64 PC, because you can simply copy them from that location. So this is Fizz, which is a SFZ player, Search XT, Create, open source plugin, Decent Sampler, Base Station, now the new one from GeForce, then Tel Sampler, TX16WX, which is also a sampler, and all plugins from Yuhi. All of these installers either identify the system wrongly as a 32-bit system and install the wrong VSTs, or they refuse to install at all because they say this is not the x64 system, or they seem to work, but then afterwards, like with the Yuhi plugins, there's nothing on the disk. So that's also not too helpful, but it's easily to work around. You simply copy the VST3 files or the CLAP files from the usual folder, which is here in program files, common files, and then it's VST3 or CLAP for the CLAP plugin. So this is also easily fixed, but it's a bit of work. Then I also have Avenger from Vengeance, and there you not only need to copy this VST3 folder, but also the folder which you can find in program data. And with Korg, it's even more complicated. Their main installer does not work at all. It does not list the available plugins. Then I tried to download all the installers manually. So then they refused to start because I said this is not an x64 system, so this also did not work. That's why I did copy all of them individually to the ARM system here, and then I could activate them via their application, but you need to choose the offline activation, and the offline activation did then work nicely. So we have also the Korg running, and I will also show you which folders you need to copy. So I documented it here a bit for you what I did copy. So first one in your public folder. So öffentlich means public. If you go to your main drive, and then there is a users folder, and then there is public, and there is the public documents, and there is a Korg folder which you need to copy over. I think this contains the presets. Then we have another one. We have in program files, the common files, there is also a folder called Korg. So this is not inside of VST3. It's directly under common files. It's Korg folder containing data for OP6 native. And if you have Prophecy as well, you need to copy that folder. Then we have under programs, there is a Korg folder, so these need to be copied as well. And then we have the VST3 folder under common files, and this contains a Korg folder and also the ModWave OP6 and the WaveState plugin. And last but not least, if you're running the Triton plugin, the Triton data, I had quite to search a bit for that. It's located under program data. So on your main drive, program data, and there is also a Korg folder which contains this resource, which you need to copy as well. And then finally, as I said, the software pass is starting up, but that's basically all it does. But then you can click here on try the offline authorization instead, and this is working nicely. So to sum up, this actually worked quite surprisingly good. Besides Korg was a big issue, the other ones, these are easy to fix, and most of the stuff is working anyway. But finally, let's make some music with all these plugins, and I made a little two-bar loop with lots of different plugins from different manufacturers. You see when it's not playing back, it's a bit spiky here, but nevertheless, let's start the playback. It's running on 64 samples. And let's check out what we have here. So as a representative of native instruments, we have battery 4. We have color copy here from Yuhi. Here's more Yuhi Diva for bass sound. And also with press work. So compressor also from Yuhi. Then we have for Arturia analog lab running with a classic patch. And good old Synth 1 from Daiji. It's doing a sap sound. Then VPS Avenger, which plays a little arpeggio. And we cannot do a track without good Kawaii K1 virtual emulation from Niels, playing the classic R sound. And Omnisphere works as well. And finally a Waldorf microwave, the new emulation, playing some weird additional drums on it. And then we have a bit of reverb here on effect track, and on the master I put an Ozone 11 just to eat up some additional performance. And everything together sounds like this. So this plays pretty nice with all these different plugins, and let's switch over to my Intel PC to see how it performs on that other machine. So, and here I loaded up this project on my Intel PC and I explained all its specifications in the last video. So check out the last video if you are curious how this actually performs. And as you see, there are a bit less spikes, so it seems to run a bit more smoothly here on the Intel x64, but also note they don't need to translate all these plugins to native format. So it's expected that this one performs a little bit lower. By the way, what I also forgot to say, I had the setting by vendor. So plugin isolation is by vendor. I had the same setting on ARM. So let's start the playback. Seems to perform in a similar way, even seems to have now some more spikes when playback is active. So again, quite impressive how nicely and smoothly this works on the ARM platform, even with these x64 emulations of these 2, 4, 6, 8 plugins plus some effects here, 10 plugins. Yeah, interesting. So much for this test with running plugins on this new Windows ARM platform. Do you have questions? Write them down in the comments or comments also as well. If you have your own experiences with that already, please write me also down in the comments. I'm really curious about what you're doing with it or what you experienced so far. And until next time, make some funky music.